Um, it's terrible. Well, I knew that already. You didn't need to be so blunt about it. Daffodil glowered, her lips forming the shape of an upside-down V. Maybe, the traveler reflected, they had been a bit too harsh. Though her food lacked finesse, it was not inedible. I mean, but it's not good. The traveler was able to swallow it down without choking and was grateful for it. If the meal was terrible, it was because Daffodil kept glaring at them. Her piercing stare would have sapped the flavor from any meal, no matter how delicious. So, Madeline smiled warmly, as was her wont, and when the travelers set their empty bowl and plate to one side. It is getting rather late. I believe Daffodil and I will turn in soon, but I fear that would be rather lonely for you. Lonely? Indeed, I would not want you sitting in the vestry on your own. I would feel guilty. Just leave them to it, Madeline. You're giving them a roof over their head and a place to sleep. Isn't that enough? But what of company? Rabbits die if they get too lonely. The traveler stiffened at this comment, but neither woman noticed. Instead, Daffodil rolled her eyes. She rolled her eyes a lot. It was probably bad for her. Maybe they would fall out of her skull one day. Please. The traveler may be many things, but I'm sure they're not a rabbit. For one thing, rabbits can't talk. Well, I suppose you're right. So, our esteemed guest. More like unwanted nuisance. Would you care for some company tonight? If you desire it, I would not mind staying with you. When Madeline asked like that, the traveler found it hard to resist. They really had no choice. Okay. Are you sure you're all right in those damn clothes? Oh, thank you for your concern, but I will be fine. Madeline did not look convinced, but she let it slide. For that, the traveler was grateful. Even so, the expression on Madeline's face, all of a sudden it looked horribly sad. Had they done something to offend her? I'm not wearing this cloak because I don't trust you. I do. I can't take it off. Not for your sake, or for Daffodil's, or even my own. I hope you understand? The traveler did not know why, but they did not want to upset Madeline. Oh? Though they hardly knew the woman, she was sweet and soft and gentle. The kind of person whose smiles could lighten your heart, and whose frowns could pierce it like thorns. If they had been with Daffodil, the traveler would not have cared one whit about causing any potential offense. Madeline was different. Okay. The nun looked surprised, however, at the traveler's comment, and she blinked. Oh, I am not offended. Please do not worry on my behalf. But you look so sad, I didn't know what else to say. I am sad, but not because of you. Not entirely. So it is partially because of me? Well... Madeline directed her gaze upwards at the vaulted roof of the church. It was still raining outside. The rainwater tapped against the stained glass windows insistently, asking to be let in. Knowing Madeline, she was the kind of woman who would open the worm-eaten doors to welcome the rain. Blah, blah, blah. I just think it's sad that you feel the need to hide your face. Not that I am trying to coerce you into removing your hood. If you do not want to, you do not have to. That is your own prerogative. But... I cannot help but wonder, though. It may seem rude of me. What kind of life must you have led to make you so very secretive? Like I said, it's the sunlight. It's bad for my skin. But it's dark right now. The traveler, unbeknownst to Madeline, bit their lower lip. Perhaps they could have removed their hood. They did not know Madeline well, but they did not feel that a nun would judge them for their appearance. Yet the traveler could not. They reached upwards with tremulous hands, but froze in the act of revealing their face. Being scorned by such a sweet woman would have hurt too much. Anyway, I apologize for making the atmosphere awkward. It was rude of me. We are going to be together for quite some time, and it does not appear that the rain will stop any time soon, so... If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Questions, huh? The traveler glanced about the church, at the wooden pews, and the cobwebs in the corners, and the withered tree by the altar, and pondered. Why is there a tree growing in the church? Oh, you wish to know about the tree? Well, yes, it is rather unusual having a tree growing in the middle of a church. A pause. Unless this is a common custom in Dequasian places of... I don't know. Places of worship, and I am unfamiliar with it. Oh, not at all. The tree is a rather unique feature. Forgive me, I forget how strange it might be to an outsider. I have lived in this church all my life, so it appears quite normal to me. In fact, I believe this church would lose some of its charm if the tree was not there. So this tree has been there for years? Indeed, many, many years, long before I got here. Do you know much about it? Not particularly. I asked Bernadette about it once, and she told me it was special. What, really? The traveler did not mean to sound so incredulous, but they could not help themselves. It was hard to imagine a scrubby tree like that, with a withered trunk and dying leaves, of having any potential worth beyond fuel for a fire. Yet there was something curious about it, other than its seemingly inexplicable placement. It piqued the traveler's interest like nothing else. Yes, I do not know how it is special precisely, and neither did Bernadette. But as it is old, and has stood in the church for so long, it feels like it would be sinful to cut it down. Even if it gets in the way? Even so. Well, I am used to it. Daffodil doesn't like it, but I refuse to let her take an axe to it. She has been haranguing me about it for a while. An axe, The traveler was not sure if they liked that mental image. Madeline seemed to agree, because she laughed. I love Daffodil a great deal, but I am not sure I would entrust her with a sharp, lethal blade. She does seem to have quite the temper. In any event, trees are sacred in Carmelism. We cannot cut them down, particularly a tree in a church. Why? It is a story in the book of Marjolaine. It states, Would you like me to tell you the whole story? Go right ahead. If you truly wish to know. Madeline shifted, her hands folded in her lap as she made herself more comfortable. I want to know. Tell me about this tree church thing. A story of lost souls. Long, long ago, more than 1,000 years hence, people were not born as one complete vessel, but two. All living creatures were divided into a physical body and their spirit. That would be the soul. Living creatures could not see their souls, but everybody knew they existed. The soul made its presence manifest whenever a person felt sad or lonely, to soothe and comfort in times of strife. When people were stressed or unhappy, they could place their burdens upon their soul. As the soul was a separate entity to the physical body, the soul could accept these negative emotions, and the physical body would be cleansed. There was, however, a downside to this practice. If the soul accumulated too much negativity, it would be tarnished. Then, when the person died, their soul would be left behind to wander the earth. Their soul could not transcend to the next life because it was too beleaguered with all the regrets that the physical body had left behind. These souls had to realize their lost dreams somehow. But how? Without a corporeal presence in the world, it was not easy. Eventually, these lost souls would be swallowed up by the life energy of the world. With no alternative other than wandering, they became one with the earth and turned into plants. That is how trees and flowers were created. They are the lost souls of those who died unable to reconcile their regrets, and thus were unable to transcend. Many centuries followed, and all living creatures nowadays are born with their souls inside their bodies. When people feel pain or regret, we have no way to purge ourselves of these feelings. Because our souls are an intrinsic part of our bodies, we have to deal with our pain and regret while we live, lest they consume us from the inside. It is a lesson we should all learn. We cannot run away from our problems forever. No matter how difficult life becomes, we have to do our best to tackle the obstacles we face. Then, and only then, can we be at peace with our inner selves and achieve true peace when we die. Cool. So, Madeline ducked her head, perhaps a touch shyly, and brushed a strand of her blonde hair behind her ear. What did you think of the story? Did you like it? It was an inspirational story. Oh my, do you really think so? Of course. What would I gain from telling a lie? I am glad you like it. I, too, am rather fond of it. It is not a particularly cheerful story, but I think it carries an important message. We can't run away from our problems, right? Indeed, they are useful words of advice, whether you believe in souls or not. But Daffodil does not like it? She does not. That was hardly surprising. What Daffodil didn't like would fill a lexicon. The story makes her feel uncomfortable, and I can imagine why. Life has not been easy on her. But neither has it been easy on me. I am glad Sister Bernadette told me this tale. It is the single most important gift anybody has given me. Without it, I doubt I would have been able to keep living. It sounds like you must have led a hard life. I suppose, but Lady Madeline does not give us hardships if we cannot bear them. Maybe it was a test. What kind of test? I could tell you if you wish, but I feel this story is even less palpable than the Book of Marjolaine. The traveler started, suddenly guilty. After all, they had not confided in Madeline their true nature. Madeline had spoken to them so earnestly, but she did not know a single thing about the traveler. Why, then, did she seem so willing to offer so much of herself to a relative stranger? It was because she was too nice. She trusted too easily, and then she got hurt. That was the general impression the traveler had. But surely it would be rude to turn her offer down. Are we giving you a choice? If you wish to tell me, I would not mind. I will listen to anything you have to say. When you say that, it makes me sound like a sinner at confessions. Oh, I was not trying to imply that. It is fine. I'm just teasing. If we cannot laugh in life, what else do we have? Laughter is important. If we could not laugh, life would be miserable indeed. Like yours? My life has not been comprised of the most pleasant experiences, but I have survived. I have a lot to be thankful for. Let me see. I suppose I should start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Excuse me? Oh, it's a reference to a musical play. It's very popular in Praline, but perhaps it hasn't been staged in Dequa. Ah, I see. If it is a play, I would not know anything about it. I have never left this church before. Not once? Not once. But don't you ever want to see what's out there? I have always been criminally uncurious. That is what Daffodil tells me. She says I should explore more, but we have occasional guests such as yourself, and they tell me tales of their own travels. That's all I need to be happy. It sounds like a simple kind of happiness. But it is happiness nonetheless. I do not want to ask for too much. It would be selfish. You should let yourself be a little selfish from time to time, or you'll never get what you want. My mother never approved of me becoming a traveler, but I defied her wishes. You must lead a very exciting life. I fear my story cannot compete. You see, I never knew my mother or my father. Ah, in that case I apologize. You do not need to apologize. You did not know. In any case, I might not be an orphan. My father or mother may still be alive somewhere in Darquois, but I will never meet them. I was abandoned on the doorstep of this church when I was a baby. The nuns found me and took me in. They raised me as their own. That must have been very lonely. I was not lonely. I did not miss my parents because I had never met them. Don't you resent them? I could not. I would resent my parents if they abandoned me. Perhaps you would, but I could not. How could I dislike people I have never known? Moreover, I am sure they had their reasons for leaving me. Maybe they could not afford to care for a child, or perhaps they were worried they would be unable to make me happy. Maybe my mother was raped and she did not want to keep a child born from such a union. Maybe my mother died in childbirth and raising me alone would have driven my father wild with grief. Whatever the reason, they must have been good people. If they had wanted me to die, they could have left me in the ditch. The fact they left me outside of a church showed that they at least wanted me to live. They loved me enough to give me life and a chance of sustaining it. I only have thanks to give them. I don't know if abandoning a baby is an act of deserving of thanks. Maybe not to you, but I will never stop being thankful to my parents, whoever they are. Without them, I would not exist. The traveler shifted uncomfortably. Did Madeline believe everything she said? It was Madeline's narrative, and she could choose to present it however she wished, but it was as though she refused point-blank to accept any negative interpretations of her parents' actions. The traveler had always argued with their family. They had prompted their decision to leave home as soon as possible. Did that mean they were childish? If Madeline had been in their situation, the traveler was sure Madeline would have seen the silver lining. She would not have run away because she was not that kind of person. She was much too stubborn. Her determination to see the world's positivity was impressive, but at the same time slightly unsettling. The rain continued to drum against the windows, a gentle pitter-patter like a baby bird's heartbeat. The rain silenced the traveler. It was time for them to listen to Madeline's story. Madeline's story. I never knew my mother or father. I was left on the steps of this church when I was but an infant. However, I was never lonely. The nuns who lived in this church were very kind. They cared for me like I was their daughter, though, in fact, I was a nobody child of mysterious origins. They fed and clothed me and gave me a place to sleep. They taught me rudimentary mathematics and how to read and write. They showed me how to tend the vegetable gardens outside and how to cook and clean. But most importantly of all, they befriended me. They gave me companionship. I never felt like I had any reason to feel sad, even if I did not know my parents, because I had already managed to find a wonderful family. They taught me about Lady Madeline and how she must have saved me for some greater purpose. I thought it was horribly self-centered to believe in a divine entity had any interest in an unremarkable girl like me, but the sisters persevered. They told me Lady Madeline cared for all of her creations equally. Of all the nuns of the church, however, I was closest to Bernadette. Bernadette was like a big sister to me. She was 12 years my senior, and I clung to her skirts like a duckling follows her mother since I was old enough to walk. Bernadette was the one who told me the story about our souls and how they came to reside in our bodies. I was 7 at the time, and there was an awful thunderstorm. The sky was thick with rain, much, much harder than it is tonight, and the wind whistled so loudly I feared the church would be blown away. I used to be afraid of the dark when I was a child, and I was horribly scared. I could not sleep soundly in my own bed, so I crept into Bernadette's. I think I woke her, but she did not scold me. Instead, she held me close, patted me on the head, and told me the story about souls. She said that we must face our own problems no matter how scared we are. In retrospect, I do wonder. Maybe she told me this story because she was tired and wanted me to go back to my own bed. I would not blame her if this was the truth, because it was very late at night, and she was awfully patient to put up with me so. In any event, no matter what her reasoning was, the story left quite an impression on me. Bernadette gave me a good deal throughout the years, but I think that tale is the most important gift anyone has ever bequeathed me. I am not exaggerating when I say it has helped me through some truly tough trials. Words. The goddess is never unfair, but, oh, it can be rather tough. At times I thought I might break, but then I recalled Bernadette's words, and I grit my teeth and I tried to get on with it. I had to. My life continued like this, unbroken, for 14 or 15 years. I grew into a young woman, and I continued to live with the nuns. I never interacted with anybody from outside the outside world, save the travelers who came to the church for refuge, and the beggars asking for alms. Although the church is 10 miles from Castella, we had no shortage of visitors. It had a good reputation, and the Mother Superior was renowned as a kindly woman who gave generously. If Daffodil were here, however, she would say it was the Mother Superior's kindness that was our undoing. Okay.